Words of blasphemy.
Freebird.
Coming to you not quite live from Peanut Desk Studios for a Bad Year Records production. I am Sascha Saintevic. With me is my co-host, Briano Hawk. Briano, say hello or hi or what's up to the people in that order.
Yo.
Always got to spice it up for me, don't you?
Do as I said.
All right. Briano, I want you to sit back for a second. I want you to sit back and envision this scenario for me. It's 1985. It is the middle of the Cold War. Mikhail Gorbachev has just been elected.
Gorbachev?
Yes, Gorbachev.
Gorbachev?
Okay, Gorbachev has just been elected. Don't mess up my hypothetical scenario here, although it's not a hypothetical scenario, it actually happened. You're envisioning yourself in 1985.
Mm-hmm.
It's 1985.
Yes.
Okay, we're like up to like Rocky IV or something.
Uh-huh.
You know, and there's something important happening in the world of music at that time. It is the year that a concerned mother have to come across a very, very bad song. And you know who I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about, of course, a former stand-in for the Grateful Dead, the great music legend Tipper Gore, who came across the tragedy of having a daughter hear a masturbation reference in the song by Prince, Darling Nikki. And this infuriated her so much, and it concerned her so much for the well-being of all children, that she put a whole committee together, of course, which involved her then senator husband, Al Gore. And it was like all politician wives, pretty much. And they put together a list of filthy 15, the 15 filthiest artists and tracks that they could find. And they put together a whole committee in order to pressure the record industry into, well, it ended up being that they just put the parental advisory stickers on it, but originally they wanted to have control as to pressure them into what's going to be distributed in the stores, what's going to be featured on top of the store's counters. They also wanted to pressure them into sort of who gets promoted on the radio stations and who it is that's going to be associated within the music industry. And since then, pretty much I wouldn't want to say a debate, but a long divide has been going on as to what constitutes censorship and what doesn't within the music industry. So I just want to sort of go from this point. I know censorship existed before that, but I think this is a defining point in which to start this conversation. How do you feel about censorship within the music industry?
Censorship within the music industry is it's I don't know, it's quite interesting how or what they consider, to be censored and how it started, like you're discussing Tipper Gore, hearing the Darling Nikki by Prince, and I know exactly what the line is that what she heard and I guess freaked out about. But censorship, I think, is in general, it's, as musicians sense, it shouldn't really be there. But also I do see that putting like that the censorship stickers on albums and stuff does let people know that what is to come from what they're going to be hearing, and they won't be shocked by it. Mm-hmm. But then again, if the artist, the CD they're buying over that artist, they should know who they are already, and so they should be expecting it. It won't be a shock if you're listening to like, Manson or Eminem and throwing slurs out there, cussing or whatever. But you should expect it as it is, from them. So you really wouldn't need the censorship stickers or any of that letting you warning you something's going to come up. Now, would it be surprising if they did a censorship sticker on like, NSYNC or something? Then that would be something you're like, yeah. But
I will imagine that the topic of masturbation to teenage girls came up much more often with NSYNC than it did with Marilyn Manson or anybody else. Or Twisted Sister, for that matter.
Yeah, like I say, it's I think censorship in a sense is for musicians and stuff. It's kind of odd that they did go that way, and it if they would have gone the way that they originally planned with Tipper Core and whatever, and that committee concerned mothers of whatever originally wanted, then the music industry would have had to get rid of a lot of artists that were making money.
Yeah.
And
Well,
yeah,
here's the thing. Look. Let's not beat around the bush. You and I are both big, big proponents against censorship of all
yes,
sorts. So, and we'll get into that as conversation goes further. Okay, but I'll take a second and I'll put the concern of parents that might how they might feel about this issue. A lot of them are out of touch with what the current music that the kids are listening to. A lot of them they'll argue, they can't just tell by looking at the title of a song or looking at the name of the band what it's actually about. Like a lot of them, the references, and some of them might have like content that they don't want the kids listening to, and they don't have the time. They're not in the know as far as the music industry goes as to what is appropriate, what isn't. So this
yeah,
sticker makes it easier for them sort of to pinpoint what is and what isn't, what they might want the kids to listen to. The artists would say though that as far as that sticker goes, if certain stores when the sticker first came out, uh, the retail stores like Walmart and things like that, they use that sticker as a way to figure out what they're going to show, advertise on their counters and what they want. Many artists felt like they were losing money on that. It was infringing on their livelihood in order to have stores to just sort of blacklist them off. Okay, well, we're not going to promote this. We're not going to show this. We don't want this because we want to be wholesome. We want to be this and that. So we don't want to have anything controversial on here. We're just going to have like, whatever. And like have like the most clean things we can have. And they felt like that was sort of interfering with their music and getting their music out there. So they're promotionally as a public relation standpoint.
yeah.
And
Well, the thing is, like, I mean, when the censorship, like the stickers and all that happened, it wasn't a change from what was already being done. I mean, artists would do censored tracks as it is because there's radio friendly tracks and there's the album
of course,
tracks and stuff. So I mean, the censorship in a sense, it was more of a, the artists did think that, yeah, we're getting kind of blacklisted and on certain albums or certain things we're doing. We have to kind of watch what we're doing, of who's selling our albums, or whatever, like Walmart, which insists on not putting anything that has any sort of censorship labels on their, or at least for CDs. I mean, you can buy a rated R movie from Walmart all you want, and there's cussing and so on and so forth and that. But
right.
CD wise, they won't have any of that in there. And so, like, yeah, the censorship wise, the sticker talking about, it did, I think, help change the way the market went in music business, because yeah, they had to double, think of like what they were going to do, how they're going to sell it to certain places, or album art and whatever, of like what can they do to get away with not having to print like four different album arts to go to four different stores, because they're going to do whatever. So they'd work on one thing to go spread out everywhere and spend less money. But like, I think the artists were used to already changing up lyrics, or omitting lyrics, or whatever, to get the effect that they needed to, or the song that they needed to play on the radio for like singles and stuff. And then the album one, which is going to be the non-edited,
Right.
PC in a sense, track.
Right. So, do you feel like that this was sort of like since they were already used to it, some people might say like, well, what's the big deal? Just like, why did they resist like the sticker for a while? Because the labels didn't want to put the stickers on originally.
Yeah.
Now, some places they would already put like some stores, some record stores, and things like that. I know they were already putting like peel on stickers to let you know,
Yeah.
adult content, things like that.
Yeah,
Like
explicit
many,
lyrics or whatever.
it wasn't standardized though. Like there wasn't like standard thing that they would put on there. It was just up to the stores themselves. And and of course, I'm sure retail stores, if they knew something was controversial, they wouldn't put it up anyway. So some might say like, well, what was the big deal? I think that what many of them felt like was, you're still, like, we're already doing as much as we need to, and now you're putting in another thing, and you're kind of singling us out, because you mentioned like there are movies out there that have content that you probably don't want your kids. If you're worried about what they're listening to music-wise, you should be worried whether or not they're watching a movie that's going to have people slaughtered and killed all over the place, or things like that, profanities. But many of these outlets that won't carry the sort of music that has like the mildest form of like colorful content, they have absolutely no problem having like all the action movies and all the other violent things on there that if it was a music form, they would make a big huff about. So maybe a lot of them feel like, well, look, not only are you singling us out, you're also now making stifling my creativity in that you now I have to think about, well, is this going to be the sort of thing that that they're going to put on a counter that I'm going to be able to sell enough to in order to go on tour, in order to like make a living off of this.
Yeah.
And so it's like just an extra thing for them to worry about. And then there's also the point of just on principle where you just want to say, okay, enough is enough. Because the sticker, like I said, was a compromise. They wanted a lot more. They had to settle for the sticker. Now looking back, I'm sure Tipper Gore and everybody else on the council is going like, oh no, we were just concerned. We were this, we were that. But I think that's really disingenuous. They wanted to control what gets to the consumer, what doesn't. They wanted their interest and their likes and their code of parenting to become like the norm for everybody. In a way, which ended up being like they wanted society to parent all of us, which I think is really fucked up. Are you going to put a bleep on that?
No. I think it's funny that your comment is it's true. I mean, people do think it was messed up like that, or that they did the such a big deal about censorship and having to censor stuff. And I mean, it's kind of stupid that they had to go so far or put such a big emphasis and stuff on, certain lyrics, which are just to me, or it's an artist thing. It's like poetry, it's you don't censor what you're going to put into your poems in a sense. I mean, there's poets out there who've done books or poems on really graphic detailing of whatever, masturbation or killing or whatever. There's tons of different things out there, even just books, not just poetry, and they don't censor it. They didn't make a big thing. It's because it was a spoken thing that's mass produced or whatever. It's put out there for everyone to hear on like CDs and videos and stuff like that. That I think they made a big deal on it. But the thing is, like Darling Nikki, there's not going to be a video made to that. I don't think there's ever a video made.
I don't think it was even produced
for MTV or any of that.
I don't even know if it came out as a single, like on its own.
No, I don't think it did. It was just one of the tracks that was done, and that's just something. But these,
you really have to find it.
Yeah, they just happened to hear it and there's like freaked out about it. But there's, tons and tons of artists who've done, so many different type of things, or just in a sense. And I think it's because it was a spoken word in a sense. It was a verbal.
They feel like it maybe influences the kids more somehow than a movie does.
And it's something that if you hear it, you can maybe understand it a little bit more than if you read it. I mean, a kid reading masturbation, they'll be like, oh, what is this? And then they have to ask. If you hear it and you're like, oh, what's this? You'll know exactly how it's pronounced. All that stuff on it.
We should also mention, by the way, if your kids are able to pick up a masturbation reference in a song, they know what masturbation is. And if they're still not to the age, they will figure out what masturbation is. So there's no way for you to stop that if that's what you're worried about. But here's the thing, look, they say like, well, parents have a right to choose content. Yes, I get it. You have absolutely, in your house, you have absolutely the right to control the content. But it's your kid. You do have to do that heavy lifting. It's like, well, you're asking me too much. I have to look into the songs. I have to listen to the songs. Yeah, parenting is tough. But in modern day society, you choose to have kids. A lot of people, that's your decision. You don't get to parent everybody around you because you want to be lazy about it. And that might sound tough to some people to hear, but it is the truth. You don't get to mother everybody, and you don't get to go the easy way by saying like, look, okay, I can't control every single thing in my household. They're going to listen to it no matter what. So I'm going to make it harder for everybody to get it. Like I'm going to put in restrictions that make it tougher for everyone to get it that way, that's gonna be able to like quarantine my kid from all these things that I consider to be bad thoughts, what I consider to be bad images. And first of all, I think that's shitty parenting for one thing.
Yeah.
I think you're doing a great disservice to your kid in order to hide them from things like that, because eventually then they're gonna grow up and they're gonna be like limited as far as what the world is, gonna hit them much harder when they are finally exposed to it as adults.
Yeah, and I think the thing is like censorship in a sense. It's like yeah, like you're saying, the
It
parent
backfires
you're the parent. You should be able to control what you're not control, but
Set
set
boundaries.
to what your child is listening to, or even watching or reading, or whatever. And yeah, I don't think you should leave it up to the record labels or whatever to say, oh well, we need to put this sticker on there because this lyrics in this, or the artist has to like change up their writing style because if I put it this way, then I have to come up with an alternate version for the Walmart version of this or whatever it is. And it's like, no, if you parent is in the child's life, they'll know, hey, this is what they listen to, I need to listen to it as well. I don't appreciate this type of lyric or this type of music or whatever, hey, I don't want you listening to this, and that's it. But the thing is, kids are going to be kids, and they're going to listen to it no matter what, no matter where you're at, where they're at, whatever. Especially if a parent's saying, hey, I don't want you listening to this. What happens with most kids? Well, they're rebellious little bastards, and they're going to be like, no, I'm going to listen to it because my parents don't want me to. And
Or just because
whatever.
you don't want me to.
Yeah. And
Like the
that's the thing
backlash you got, now you knew. Some would say like, well, you put the sticker on it. Now I know what the good stuff is.
Yeah.
I can just ignore all the other stuff.
And that's the thing is, I mean, it's censorship in a sense just made it easier for the kids to rebel against their parents. I mean, if you didn't put the stickers on there, then yeah, the kids would have to go through more and more albums or artists or whatever to hear whatever, or they would just be so used to it that they wouldn't think, oh well, this is censorship, oh I can't listen to this, this is something bad. It's like, oh okay, Darlene Nikki's talking about masturbating to a magazine, and it's like, well, okay, well what's so bad about masturbation? Now that you put a sticker on it saying, oh, you can't, you're being warned because it's this explicit detail of an act that is naturally done by everybody anyways. Yeah, no matter what you say, everyone does.
Yeah.
You know what? So I think it made it worse in that sense. But there's, I mean, not just Prince. I mean, there's other albums and lyrics and stuff that kind of, with the same thing, the censorship labels and stickers made it kind of like, well, okay, well, we don't want you listening to this because this is bad words, or it's whatever descriptive stuff I mean, that I don't want you listening to.
You can argue, like it's subjective. What's a bad word? What isn't? Is tit a bad word?
Sounds funny.
Like, is penis a bad word? Is vagina a bad word? Those are like you'd be like, well, no, those sound anatomically correct. Really? Like, I mean, like, but for some parents, that they might not want their kids listening. And something struck me as you were talking, and I think you might have been heading in that direction too. It's like, I think a lot of parents, they're not ready to have these conversations with their kids. So they're kind of trying to delay it. They're like, okay, I'm just going to like keep this at bay for as long as I can. I don't want to explain to them, sexual things, sexual content, and things of that nature. I don't want to, go into a conversation with them why it might be a good idea or a bad idea for them to use profanities. Like, they don't really want, they just want to tell them like, it's bad, don't do it. But a lot of times kids don't really get any reference. Like, okay, why is it bad to say shit and fuck, and things like that? Like, they might just be, they have absolutely no reference to it. So that's why it becomes so enticing, magical words to them. Because I'm totally okay with parents saying, I don't want my kids using these things. That's fine. But it's a conversation you need to have with your kids, and you're not going to, first of all, you're not doing your kids any good by simply telling them, oh, well, you know what? Let's just conversation stopper. You just can't. And the way I'm going to do is put a stamp on it. And I think what infuriates me most about this, number one, it's the principal issue. I just don't like censorship, period. Like, are people allowed to say things? There are things that people say and people promote that I think are downright offensive and obscene and disgusting. They have every right to say it. You have a right to say, like, if I'm in a situation where I don't want to hear what someone says, I will get up, and I will leave the room, and they're allowed to have that space. They can say whatever they want. And as far as people say, like, well, that can be dangerous. That could, like, what if they get a following? What if they get a look? If somebody is gonna, if that's gonna lead to something like that, people already had that in their head. Okay, simply because so if there's an issue with what's being said, and you're worried about it having a mass following, you're putting bad ideas in people's heads, so youths are gonna end up rebelling, then you got a bigger societal issue than just the words themselves.
Yeah.
And so that's like one thing. Like, I just don't like censorship from that angle or from any angle. Another thing is, I don't like the disingenuous way the people who do these things. I mean, think of it this way. Nowadays, a lot of people would say, like, well, someone like Al Gore, he's the progressive, he's the left-wing guy, he stands for liberal values, which would include freedom of speech and things like that. He, in 1985, he was one of the guys who was promoting censorship. He was one of the guys who was sitting up in that committee saying, no, I have the right to tell you what you get to listen to. And I know he would never frame it that way. He would always be like, no, children, it's about the kids. We were just trying to, good parenting. No, bullshit. What you were trying to do is tell people what they can say. What you were trying to do is control the content that they get. And I'm sure he has the best of intentions in his head. Yeah. And I'm sure that's why he wants to frame it that way. But from a general viewpoint, from my viewpoint, he does not have that right. You either live in a free society or you don't. Yeah. And in a free society, you take the risk of hearing things you might not like.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is, I mean, you can argue, or people can argue, like, yeah, they agree with his idea in the sense that, yeah, it's about the children, it's about whatever, blah, blah, blah. But then it does go back to, it's up to the parent, because if the parent doesn't want you to hear certain thing or, say certain words or do certain things, they will tell you, and they should, in a sense, protect you from it. Not protect you, but keep you from it. And the thing is, the more parents do that, the more they, the kids will rebel against it once they find out about it later or whatever. And I mean, like, with my parents, how they did it, was like, yeah, listen to whatever you want. If something I don't want you to listen to, I'll just tell you, hey, that that's not what I appreciate you listening to, but I'm not going to hold you back from it if that's what you have to do. Make your own choice in a sense on what you're listening to and stuff. And that for me, I thought was kind of cool. It was like, okay, well, censorship, cool. It's like, whatever. And I never had to like, oh, well, hey, can I buy this? It has this sticker. It's like, yeah, buy it. You like the artist? Go. As long as you understand it's, whatever's in there, it's taken as a artistic point of view. It's not what they're truly meaning of it in a sense. It's not, don't stand by as a word of whatever. It's, it's there to add emotion to, or a feeling to that song or that lyric or whatever it is. And that's why it's put that way, or it's discussing something of the theme of the song. And so, censorship in a sense that way, I think people don't see it as a, or people who do the censorship, should I say, they don't see it as, oh, well, this should be there because it's a descriptive thing for the, for the song or for the, view of that song. It's more of like, oh, well, this word's in there and we don't like people hearing that word. And
just flat out blank statement. Yeah. It has, whatever word you want to put in, it says fuck. Well, I don't care what the content is. It says shit. I don't care what the content is.
Yeah.
And look. You and I are good examples of this. Think about this. So, like, people might know. You and I know each other for many years. People may notice I'm the one that's dropping the profanity in this, and you're not. And and that's not something that I've known you for years. You do not use profanity. That is a personal choice that you do. You have no problem hearing it, no problem saying it, and you don't go around restricting other people. And I would never, and I totally respect that. You should not have to use words you don't want to use.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a personal choice that you make. But I think that's the best way to go about it. People have different choices. People have different parenting styles.
Yeah.
And that's why I keep saying, like, I would never tell you you're a horrible person because you don't want to let your kids listen to, music that you think is inappropriate for them. Of course, if you don't feel like you want something in your home, you don't want it in your home.
Yeah,
But
and it's.
Go ahead.
I mean, didn't mean to cut you off, but
No, go ahead.
just the thought that came into my head. It's kind of kind of goes away from the music in a sense, but it still goes to censorship.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like there's censorship stickers on albums or whatever. If you don't want your child to listen to it, it's the same thing as like movies in a sense. Like you don't want your child to watch X-rated movies, pornos, whatever.
Right.
And if you have a porno and you're watching it or whatever, not watching it, but you have them. You don't put them out to display for your kids to watch them. You hide them. You're like, oh no, this isn't something for them.
Right.
And in a sense, that's kind of what I see as censorship on those. Like they, kind of tells, it gives an image to me as like, oh well, we don't want your kids to listen to this. We don't want your kids to have this. And I mean, if you, in a sense, don't want your kids to be listening to that, it's not that, oh yeah, go hide it, because porno and the slight thing is completely different aspects, yeah. But either way, it's that guy to me. It's kind of that same concept. It's like it's something you really don't want them to listen to. Well, you can try to hide it from them, but it's damn near impossible, especially now with the internet and everything else and so on and so forth. But if you go into a store and you see the thing, yeah, you can say, okay, well, I don't want you to listen to this stuff. You're not allowed, don't go to this section, blah, 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 whatever. Because they usually have them all in about the same section of like censorship or, profanities or whatever and stuff like that. And there's the other one is like, well, if you like this artist, you have to get the clean version of it, the edited, whatever, clean version. So you can still listen to them, but you're not going to hear whatever. And to me, it always seems funny. In a sense, because that's what it's like. I said, it's the analogy of the porno and the censorship is like completely different angles, but that's what I see it as. Like you're gonna, some people will see it as bad as the censorship stickers or the album with the censorship is just bad as them watching a porno. Your kids watching a porno. But to me, that's kind of silly and funny, because that's how some people actually see it, and it's like no. It's a completely different thing. Sometimes it's a censorship. It's not even like cuss words or anything. It's just like, I don't know. It's kind of weird. I can't really explain or think with words that would match for it right now.
I get you. I mean, it's the sense that whenever something like this, like the committee in 1985 or any other sort of committee concerned, parent committee or whatever the hell else, whatever acronyms want to come up for over the years, whenever they come together, they always do sort of like these general statements like it can't have X, Y, or Z, and will declare all that sort of like contraband items, and it's solved. Put a Band-Aid on, now it's fixed. Okay, well, what it really, like, think of the censored songs. Usually, they just leave like the bad words, quote unquote, blank. So, do you think your kids are so stupid that they don't know what it means when they hear like, and then I'm gonna beep with a beep and a beep? Like, do you think your kids can't fill in the blank? They can. It's like mad. It's like swearing Mad Libs. Like they know what they're saying. They know what's actually saying. But you haven't. If you're concerned about them using those words, you haven't fixed anything by sort of removing that content from their music, from their entertainment.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, like, I don't know if they still do it or they, or what, but some of the albums that I've gotten before, like Walmart or whatever it was, that originally had the censorship and stuff, and the artist didn't want to, like, oh no, I'm not going to redo the song or change the lyrics. So the audio engineers or whatever, what they had to do is take that lyric, not just add a beat, but they would speed it up and make it like it was like weird sound. It was funny as heck because you'll be hearing something and it's not like you don't understand what's coming because you hear the beginning, the first part of it, and then you hear the words right after it. And like you're saying, it's like Mad Libs. It's not hard to place the word there, and sometimes it's done. It's real fast, but you still hear the very beginning of the letter and then the very end of it, and so it's like, well, oh yeah, I understand exactly what they said. It's like
like when they put a word over it where it's like it would not. Like no one would ever say that. I don't think I've ever met anybody outside of like that sort of like censored content where it was a censored song or movie where someone said, "Hey man, forget you, man." Nobody has ever said that in their life. Like nobody ever told somebody else to forget it. Like it just does not happen. But I think it's both was kind of fall into the like it is just general censorship that we disagree with. Like, and first of all, it does not even get, if these people are convinced that there's a problem, the advocates of this sort of censorship, it doesn't address the issue that they think it addresses. That's one thing. Like it all it does is provide more restrictions, and all it does is sort of infringe on the rights of everybody else. And look, I understand your concern, parenting is tough and all that, and we're kind of telling you, like you need to step up to the ball game if you see this as an issue, and
Yeah.
you need to pull your weight. But yeah, parenting is tough, and that's how it works.
Yeah, and I think the thing is like nowadays, I'm kind of going off of just like when it first started out, early '90s and so on and so forth. But nowadays, yeah, censorship has changed slightly, and what's acceptable in a sense, I guess, because
Right.
TV now they're allowing words that were not supposed to be spoken or
Right.
never spoken, and nowadays, like later on after 9 o'clock, whatever, later it gets in the day. You start hearing more, not profound words or profanities, but you hear more like, oh, well, it's not something you're going to hear at 9 o'clock in the morning,
And
you know?
that's probably another reason why we would be against something, is because words do change in like the severity of what they mean.
Yeah.
And what's profane now might not be profane 50 years from now. But language can't evolve that way if you try to sort of freeze it into the time frame and the sensitivity that you have now.
Yeah.
And that's nothing. I think it goes against creativity, especially in something like music, where I think people should have the freedom to explore. Look, and if it's garbage, these things usually self-regulate on their own. People eventually sort of reject and they tire of that sort of things. And a
Yeah.
lot of it, if it's really trashy, if it's really disgusting, whatever you want to call it usually doesn't find that much mainstream appeal. Anyway,
Yeah.
it rarely finds anything outside of the niche communities where they are. And so I don't really see what they're that worried about. I think they overstate the problem. If there is a problem, that problem is at home, and it's a conversation, and it starts with having a conversation with your kids. And that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah. No, I agree. I totally agree with that.
All right, so we solved this problem. There may be content in this episode that might not be suitable for viewers of all ages or listeners of all ages. All right, that's it for us this week, and we'll catch you guys next week.
All right, guys. See you.